decades, Lockheed Martin has pushed the boundaries of aviation to unimaginable heights. Working in the shadows, its Skunk Works division has pioneered aircraft so advanced, so lethal, and so secretive that their existence is known only to an elite few. Now, Lockheed Martin is poised to shock the world once more with its latest creation, an aircraft so fast it outpaces even lightning itself. Building on the legacy of past marvels like the SR-71 Blackbird, this new creation represents a quantum leap forward, incorporating bleeding-edge improvements in propulsion, thermal management, and stealth capabilities, begging the question: just how fast and how far has Lockheed Martin pushed the boundaries of hypersonic technology this time? Join us as we unveil the US-revealed top-secret hypersonic aircraft reaching Mach 10. Years after the retirement of the SR-71, there was a notable gap in surveillance coverage between satellites, crewed aircraft, and unmanned aerial vehicles used for intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, and strike missions. This lapse gave rise to anti-satellite weapons, anti-access/area denial strategies, and counter-stealth technologies. To address this, USAF agreed on a high-speed aircraft that could effectively enter protected airspace, gather intelligence, and easily strike down a target. Emphasis on its speed is a huge upgrade on stealth as seen in fifth-generation jet fighter programs and anticipated drone advancements. In 2007, there were talks about a new plane to replace the Blackbird, a really fast one. The US Air Force wanted Lockheed to make a plane that could go over Mach 6, which is more than 4,600 miles per hour, and fly across the country at a high altitude. They hoped to show it off in 2020, but that seemed too hopeful. Then, in 2013, the SR-72 was back in the news. Aviation Week and Space Technology got some secret info from the Skunk Works team at Lockheed. People got so interested that the servers crashed, not just from public interest but also from cyber attacks. The Skunk Works team said they wanted to make a plane that could do intelligence and surveillance work exceptionally well. It would fly at Mach 6, going high and fast into enemy territory. This would make it hard for other planes to catch or outsmart it, something drones couldn't do. The SR-72 could also hit targets before they even knew it was there, or could hide from fast spy planes. Going back a bit, Lockheed worked on a project from 2003 to 2006 for DARPA, creating a super-fast experimental vehicle called HTV-2. It could fly at Mach 20, testing technology that could let the US reach any target in the world in just 1 hour. This idea got bigger with the Prompt Global Strike Plan. Lockheed worked hard on the HTV-2, making it from strong materials so important parts wouldn't break, as they were so close to the surface. They didn't use regular steel because it would melt at high temperatures. The plan was to make a new version, the HTV-3X or Black Swift, by 2025. It would be a reusable super-fast drone, taking off from a normal runway. It could carry about 12,000 pounds of stuff and hit targets far away in less than 2 hours. However, after tests in 2010 and 2011, DARPA canceled the project because they had enough data. Even though the HTV-3X was canceled in 2008, they kept working on the HTV-2 until 2014, learning from the technology to make better tools and methods for designing super-fast shells. Now in 2013, Skunk Works shared a bit of their big plan with Aviation Week. They worked with Aerojet Rocketdyne for more than 7 years to make a way to connect a finished hypersonic engine with a scramjet to make a plane go from fast to undoubtedly fast, like Mach 6. They used the HTV-3X idea, but improved it, solving a key problem: the high-speed gas turbine engine. The Skunk Works team had a tough job: design an engine for planes that can fly slowly, go fast, and even super fast. It's like making a Swiss Army knife for different parts of the flight. In 2017, a Lockheed Martin executive talked about how they've made good progress in super-fast flight technology. They, along with DARPA and others, are working to bring new abilities to US fighter planes and future projects. The details are secret, but they say the key to the SR-72's development is combining different types of engines and technologies for superfast flight. The US is working on more than a dozen superfast flight projects. The SR-72 is linked to Mayhem, a secret Air Force program testing new jet engines. The special thing about these engines is that they can work like regular ones, allowing the plane to land and be used multiple times. This could be a big deal for defense and air travel, according to experts. No country has put a scramjet, a type of superfast engine, into a rocket or plane yet, but the US is trying hard. In 2021, Northrop Grumman successfully tested a scramjet in the DARPA Hawk program. In 2022, Lockheed Martin also had success testing superfast technology. The Mayhem project is like a bigger version of the Hawk, but they're still figuring out how to use a regular jet engine without making the plane too heavy or blocking the superfast engine. The US is leading in developing invisible technology, keeping an eye on other countries and trying to make systems that can detect it. The Mayhem project and other superfast planes are not focusing on being invisible. Instead, they want to fly superfast. This speed allows them to enter enemy areas, gather data, hit targets, and then quickly fly away. Another important part of these superfast planes is where they put their weapons. Also, the surfaces of the planes need to resist extreme temperatures because they go at speeds of Mach 5 to 6. Not just the materials, but also the electronics must work at high speeds during the entire flight, keeping stable connections for precise maneuvers and dealing with defense systems. One challenge is making an engine that works well for planes like the SR-72. Another issue is the cost. Hypersonic missiles could be very expensive, estimated to be between $90 to $110 million, while a modern stealth fighter costs around $80 million. This is a lot more than the old Blackbird, which cost only $23 million in the 1960s. The SR-72 could be different. The former CEO of Lockheed thinks it might be similar in size to the F-22 Raptor and cost less than $1 billion. While this isn't confirmed, it's worth noting that the futuristic B-21 Raider bomber is estimated to cost $700 million per unit. People got excited about the SR-72 again because of the Top Gun movie sequel in 2022. It featured a superfast plane called Dark Star, similar to what the Skunk Works division is working on. Information about this event appeared on Lockheed Martin's official website later on. What makes the SR-72 better than the SR-71? The SR-71, also called the Blackbird, was made to fly fast at high speed, more than Mach 3. It had 2 people on board, a pilot in the front and a surveillance officer in the back. The plane was designed to be hard to see, painted dark blue to hide in the night sky, earning it the nickname Blackbird. The SR-71 used a mix of flying very high and very fast to avoid being caught. Its radar tricks and dark color made it tough for enemies to track. Even if someone shot a missile at it, the SR-71 could often fly faster or dodge out of the way. The plane's body was mostly built with titanium and special materials. Lockheed, the company that made it, faced challenges because titanium is expensive and can corrode. Flying at high temperatures needed special designs, like wing sections that could expand without breaking. The body panels were fitted loosely on the ground, but fit together properly when the plane heated up in the air. The front window of the cockpit was made of quartz and connected to a titanium frame. The plane had fuel leaks on the ground because of heating, causing some trouble for the ground crew. Red lines on the wings showed where people shouldn't step. The SR-71's tires, filled with nitrogen and aluminium, cost $2,300 each and needed changing after about 20 flights. The plane landed fast and used a parachute to slow down and reduce wear on brakes and tires. Despite its challenging design, no SR-71 was ever shot down. Getting enough titanium was tough because the US needed more. The Skunk Works team had to find it from other places, including the Soviet Union. They got the titanium by using third-world countries and tricky operations. The SR-71, mostly made of titanium, wanted to be hard for radar to see. Its shape and materials were made for this. The plane had special features like sharp edges and special materials on its skin to absorb radar signals. They also added things to the fuel to make the exhaust less visible. However, Soviet radar tech improved faster than the stealth measures. Sharp edges called chines were added for stealth. They weren't part of the original design, but were found to help the plane fly better. They also reduced landing speeds and made the plane more stable at high speeds. The air inlets on the SR-71 were important for fast flights. They let the plane go faster than Mach 3.2, which was its most efficient speed. The inlets had a part called a spike at the front that moved as the plane went faster. This helped manage airflow, making sure the plane could fly efficiently at high speeds. In the early flights, the computers had trouble controlling the spike's position, causing problems. Engineers fixed this by restarting the inlets and later added an electronic system to automatically fix the issue. NASA also found that the Chinese affected engine efficiency, leading to more improvements. In 1980, they replaced the old control system with a new digital one called DAFIX, which reduced problems with the inlets and improved overall performance. The SR-71 had two strong engines called Pratt and Whitney J58, producing 32,500 pounds of thrust when not moving. These engines worked best when the plane cruised at its usual speed of around Mach 3.2. When the plane took off, 26% of the thrust came from a part called the afterburner, which boosts engine power. The afterburner gave all the thrust at around Mach 3 as the plane sped up. First, air went through compression and heating to see how the engines worked. Some of the compressed air went to the afterburner, while the rest mixed with fuel in the combustion chamber. After passing through the turbine, the exhaust and some air from the compressor entered the afterburner. At Mach 3, the temperature rise from compression reduced the fuel flow allowed because the turbine temperature limit stayed the same. The rotating machinery in the engine became less powerful, but it was enough to keep the air flowing. The high-speed thrust now came from the afterburner's temperature rise. The plane's top speed was limited by the air temperature entering the engine, which couldn't go above 800 degrees Fahrenheit. At first, the SR-71 used external engines to start, but later a quieter system was developed. The SR-71 had different fuel options, but it mainly used JP7, which was hard to ignite. A substance called triethylborane was used to start the engines, creating high temperatures needed to ignite JP7. It produced a green flame during ignition. During takeoff, the SR-71 carried only partial fuel to reduce stress on brakes and tires. It quickly reached high speeds, using 1/3 of its fuel. Some thought the plane refueled right after takeoff due to fuel leakage, but it was needed for maximum speeds, which required aerial refueling. In-flight refueling was necessary for long missions, and special tankers were used. The plane used a navigation system that tracked stars through a window, correcting errors with celestial observations. The system was accurate enough to limit drift to 1,000 feet at Mach 3, according to a former pilot. The SR-71 had many tools and systems for its missions. It had cameras, radar, and electronic intelligence systems. The cameras could take pictures from different parts of the plane, and the radar systems were later upgraded with better technology. The plane also had countermeasure systems to protect against threats. These could jam signals and confuse enemy systems. The crew wore special suits to handle high altitudes and temperatures during flights. They couldn't use regular masks, so pressurized suits were made to provide enough oxygen. The cockpit had a cooling system to handle the extreme heat during high-speed flights. The crew also had a way to get food and drinks during long missions, using containers with straws that they could guide into their helmets. Overall, the SR-71 had various technologies to carry out its mission successfully, but it was retired in 1989 and some thought it was because of its cost and the belief that other reconnaissance methods were improving. The Air Force told Congress this. However, there were debates about whether the decision was more about politics within the Pentagon than the actual need for the aircraft. Some argued that the SR-71 had unique intelligence capabilities not provided by alternatives like satellites, U-2S, and UAVs. The Air Force leaders at the time believed the SR-71 was no longer essential, and there were efforts to convince Congress and the military services of its redundancy. Despite this, some argued that these claims were more of a sales pitch than a fact. The Air Force might have seen the SR-71 as a bargaining tool to protect other important projects. The leaders in charge didn't see the intelligence provided by the SR-71 program as very valuable for the Air Force, but believed it was more important for other agencies. There was a misunderstanding about aerial surveillance, and a lack of knowledge about the SR-71 led to efforts to discredit it, with promises of a replacement being developed. Dick Cheney mentioned to the Senate that the SR-71 cost $85,000 per hour to operate, but opponents estimated its support cost much higher than it was. The SR-71 was better than the U-2 in terms of range, speed, and survivability, but it lacked a data link that the U-2 had. This meant the SR-71's data couldn't be used in real time and had to wait until it returned to base. This limitation became a reason to shut down the program. Some argued that the lack of upgrades made it seem outdated, favoring those pushing for other programs. Attempts to add a data link were hindered by factions in the Pentagon and Congress that wanted to end the program. Even though Congress allocated funds in 1988 to keep 6 SR-71s operational, the Air Force didn't spend the money. The decision to retire the SR-71 from active duty came in 1989, with the last missions flown in October of that year. General Schwarzkopf later found during Operation Desert Storm that the quick reconnaissance the SR-71 could have provided was not available. The main operational capabilities of the SR-71 program ended in October 1989, and the squadron closed in mid-1990 with the aircraft distributed to display locations or kept in reserve storage. Concerns about political situations in the Middle East and North Korea led the U.S. Congress to reconsider the SR-71 in 1993. Rear Admiral Thomas F. Hall explained that the SR-71 was retired because it couldn't meet the fast-paced needs of the modern battlefield. They believed using technology to get data in real time would better suit the tactical commander's unique requirements. They were also exploring other ways to do the SR-71's job. Mackey informed the committee that they used U-2S, RC-135S, and other assets to gather information in some areas. Senator Robert Byrd and others were unhappy that a successor to the SR-71 hadn't been developed, considering it as good as the SR-71. They argued that creating an aircraft with the same capabilities as the SR-71 would be impossible in a time of limited military budgets. Congress was disappointed with the lack of a suitable replacement for the SR-71, which influenced decisions about funding imaging sensors on the U-2. They added $100 million to the budget to bring 3 SR-71s back into service, but later cut it to $72.5 million. The Skunk Works, responsible for the aircraft, managed to get it back into service under budget at $72 million. Retired USAF Colonel J. Murphy led Lockheed's reactivation plans, with retired USAF Colonels Don Emmons and Barry McKean working on the logistics and support structure. Active USAF pilots and reconnaissance systems officers who had experience with the SR-71 were asked to volunteer to fly the reactivated planes. The 9th Reconnaissance Wing at Beale Air Force Base was in charge of the aircraft, which operated out of a renovated hangar at Edwards Air Force Base. Modifications allowed near real-time transmission of the advanced synthetic aperture radar's imagery to ground sites. Bringing back the SR-71 faced many challenges. The Air Force didn't plan for it in their budget, and developers of unmanned aerial vehicles were worried their projects might suffer if money went to the SR-71 SS. Congress had to approve funds yearly, making it hard to plan for the SR-71 in the long term. In 1996, the Air Force said they needed more specific funding and tried to stop the program. Congress approved the funds, but in 1997, President Bill Clinton tried to cancel the $39 million allocated for the SR-71 using the line item veto. In 1998, the U.S. Supreme Court said the line item veto was unconstitutional. The SR-71's fate remained uncertain until September 1998, when the Air Force asked for the funds to be used elsewhere, and they permanently retired the SR-71 in 1998. NASA used the last 2 flying Blackbirds until 1999. All other Blackbirds are now in museums, except for 2 SR-71S and a few D-21 drones kept by the NASA Dryden Flight Research Center. For a while, no plane could do what the SR-71 could. Now, there's a new one called the SR-72. As countries like Russia and China get stronger, the U.S. needs an unstoppable aircraft like the Blackbird, and that's why we have the SR-72. Thanks for watching. While you're still here, click on the link appearing on your screen to watch another of our interesting videos. See you there.